Hey, welcome to Dan Harsh and Associates. Today we're going to be talking about 3 components of an effective sales structure. Let's jump right in. 4 areas that we're going to talk about today. One is we're going to define sales. I think it's going to be important for us to put some context around sales and the definition of sales as we begin to progress through this video. Then we're going to talk about 3 components of an effective sales structure. There's a lot of different components, but today we're going to focus on 3 key components. Then we're going to talk about considerations and tough decisions as we set up these 3 key components. And then lastly, we're going to talk about common mistakes companies make. So let's get started. In my book, Time for Change, I dedicate an entire chapter to defining sales. And I go into great detail on my definition of sales. And I define sales this way. Sales focuses on finding and closing new business from new customers 100% of the time. Let me repeat that. Sales focuses on finding and closing new business from new customers 100% of the time. That's a lot to take in, and not everyone agrees with that definition. I think if you were to read my book, and specifically this chapter that I dedicate to this definition and why, I think you may have a different perspective on this definition, and I think it may cause you to reevaluate some things you're doing in your own sales group. But for the purpose of today's video, this is the definition, the context in which we're going to be kind of moving forward as we progress through this video. Sales is a task. It's a process. It's an art. It's a science. It's difficult. It's time consuming. Sales is not easy. It's a constant struggle for every company. The target moves all the time. The market changes all the time. There's new competition. There's new technology. It's a continual effort. That's why companies struggle so much with sales. It's a moving target all the time. It's constantly evolving. It constantly requires analysis, management, change. And a lot of companies, they're not up for that task. The other thing is, when we use this definition that I'm referring to, what about sales from existing customers? Well, for the purpose of today, we're not talking about sales from existing customers. We're talking about sales from new customers. So let's keep that in mind as we progress through. We're talking about sales from new customers. So let's get into the 3 components that we're going to talk about today. 3 components of an effective sales structure. The 3 key components that I want to focus on are prospecting, the sales demo, and number 3, the follow-up. These are 3 key areas for any sales organization, and these are 3 key areas that I know firsthand that companies struggle with. They struggle in these 3 areas. These are not easy areas to manage, to implement, to design, to execute. And so we're going to break them down a little bit. So let's start with number 1 here, prospecting. Why do I put that as number 1? Well, in my opinion, this is where everything starts. This is the start of the process. This is where the pipeline begins to start building. You know, if you go back to the definition here, sales focuses on finding and closing new business from new customers 100% of the time. Well, this prospecting piece then is a critical component of that because that's its sole focus. Its sole focus is to find new business. And so this is the start of the process. This is where the activity begins to start generating. If you can imagine starting a brand new company from scratch, one of the first things you have to do is you have to go find a customer. So you start prospecting. That's the beginning step of any sales organization, is start prospecting, start finding new customers. I don't have any customers yet. I have to begin finding new customers. I have to begin building a pipeline. In my company, Concept, we have a saying on the wall, and the saying says it's not about closing the sales today. It's about building the pipeline for tomorrow. It's not about closing the sale today. It's about building the pipeline for tomorrow. Well, what's that mean? Everyone wants the sale today. Well, the reason they want the sale today is because they're not doing a good job of building their pipeline. So they don't have a productive and effective pipeline working for them. So they're always trying to get that low-hanging fruit today. I believe that if you spend your time up front in this prospecting phase and you spend your time building a pipeline, your sales will take care of itself. Once you get that pipeline full, things will start dropping out the bottom. The job is to continually be putting things in your pipeline regularly. I have to be adding to that pipeline continuously. And when I do, eventually I will start closing sales. And when that time comes, sales will regularly come out and new prospects will be going in, and it's just going to be a continual engine. And that's the point that I can begin to forecast, and I can begin to estimate when I'm going to close sales, and it becomes an engine at that time. So prospecting is a key component of this 3 key components of an effective sales structure. Some things that fall under the prospecting component is messaging. I did a whole video on this, and the video I did is how to create an effective sales message. And you can go out to my YouTube channel and find that video. But I have a whole video dedicated to this, and we're not going to go into all that detail today. But messaging is a critical component of my prospecting. I have to align my message with the prospect's needs, with the market's needs, with their wants, with their demands. I got to figure out, how can I position my product, my service, to align with the prospect's needs, their wants, their demands. And I got to figure out how to craft that message. And most important, I got to figure out what their needs are. Are their needs around cost? Is it around efficiency? Is it around scalability, process improvement, integration, cost of ownership, expertise? What is their need? I got to validate that in the market. And I go into detail in that in my video of how to create an effective sales message. But once I validate that need or that want, that demand, then I can craft my message. When I begin to craft my message, there's a couple things you have to take into consideration. We have what's called one-to-one and one-to-many. One-to-one messaging is you can look at one-to-one as I'm picking up a phone call and having a personal conversation one-on-one with a prospect. That's considered one-to-one. I may be doing a broadcast email marketing campaign with a generic message that's going out to many people at one time. That's referred to as one-to-many. Well, in my messaging, I got to craft that message accordingly. If I'm having a one-to-one phone conversation with somebody, or if I'm sending an email directly to somebody I've talked to, that message might be a little different than my one-to-many messages. My one-to-many might be my paid search, my Google ads, my LinkedIn, advertising, social media, that type of thing. So we got to design our messaging based on the channel in which we're going to be delivering it. Also, part of this prospecting is discovery. As I'm talking to that prospect, I got to probe and ask questions. I got to ask the who, the what, the when, the where, the how, the why, the is, the do, the have, will. I got to ask questions. I got to remember, I got to figure out what their need is, what their pain is. Once I figure that out, then I can deliver my message. I don't want to start talking about my product, my service before I really know what their need is. So it's very important in this discovery phase of prospecting to be asking relevant questions to get to that need. And then lastly is I need to qualify. Am I talking to the decision maker? Do they have a budget? Does their budget align with my product or my service? Is their time frame in the window in which I'm looking for? Do I have a solution that fits their need? So this prospecting step, this prospecting component, it's very important. There's a lot of things that go into that, and this is the start of the sales process. Lastly, this needs to be a dedicated function. And this is where a lot of companies fall short. They begin to combine this with other sales-related functions. They have one salesperson who's responsible for managing existing accounts, the customer service, prospecting for new business, putting proposals together, answering inbound leads. It's not going to happen. You can just take that to the bank. It's not going to happen. This is not a function you put on somebody who has other responsibilities. This needs to be a dedicated role, a dedicated focus, and a dedicated function. And it needs to be accomplished by somebody who enjoys doing this. This is a hunter. This is somebody who likes to go for the kill. This is somebody who likes to get into the weeds and try to see what's in there and see if they can make a catch. This is an important role, and it's important that you have somebody in this role that's what they like to do. So don't combine this with some other function or some other role within your organization. This role of prospecting, it's surrounded by automation. Okay, and that's CRM, and we'll get into that a little bit. It's an SDR. It's somebody who's making outbound calls. It's your marketing department that's putting this message out into multi-channels. This is a pretty big role and a pretty big function within your organization. And keep in mind, it is the start of the sales process. This is critical. This is what's going to feed your pipeline. This role is what eventually is going to drive your sales. Well, we've talked about prospecting. Let's go into step 2 of this sales structure component. I'm referring to it as the sales demo. A lot of people will refer to this as the demo, the presentation, a sales meeting, whatever it may be. But it's not about presenting. I did another video on this called Quit Selling. You'll find this once again out on my YouTube channel. But I go into detail about the importance of this role. This role is not about getting up and just talking about your product, your service, and all the features and benefits that you have to offer. This function, this role, this component, this part of the sales structure, the sales process, It's about asking a lot of questions. It's about getting to their need, their pain, and being able to listen so then you can position your product, your service to meet those needs. It's about differentiating yourself from the competition. Many people just get up and start talking about their product, their service, and all the features and all the bells and whistles. Well, those bells and whistles, they don't mean anything if they're not meeting the prospect's need. So this role is more than just presenting your product or service. It's about building trust. It's about creating value and confidence in that prospect. This is a very professional role within your organization. This needs to be accomplished by a seasoned person, somebody who understands working with customers. A lot of times people will fall into the mistake of taking somebody who's very technical, very competent on the product or the service and put them in this role. That doesn't always work. Just because they're technically competent, they understand the product, they understand the process, they understand the service, that may not mean they're necessarily the best person for this role. That just means they understand the product and service. This person needs to have experience working with customers, asking those questions, listening, know how to ask questions, know what they're hearing. They need to have very active listening skills. This person needs to be easy to talk with. As I mentioned, this person needs to be able to build confidence and trust in that prospect. So this is a step 2. We talked about the prospecting. Now we're talking about, hey, I got a lead. Think about it. You spent money developing this lead. And when this lead is getting turned over to this salesperson for this demo, keep in mind that lead has met everything you wanted it to meet. We're not turning leads over unless they meet a criteria that you have set. So you have spent money to get a lead to this stage. You got to make sure that you have somebody who is capable of taking that lead to the next step. It's like it's 2 outs, it's the bottom of the 9th, bases are loaded. You need your best batter up. You need somebody who you can count on, somebody who knows how to handle this situation. Leads are hard to come by, but when it gets to this stage, that lead has met criteria. It is exactly what you're looking for. We want to make sure the person that we're putting in front of that prospect is qualified, is equipped, and capable of handling that. Let's move on to the last step. We've talked about prospecting. We've talked about the sales demo. Step 3 in this 3 key components of a sales structure is follow-up. I did another whole video on follow-up. And if you're going to watch any video that I have done, this would be a good one to watch. This is probably one of the number 1 weaknesses of every organization is follow-up. And for many, many reasons. 3 areas we're going to talk about that we need to have follow-up. 1 is in prospects, 2 is in leads, and 3 is in proposals. I need to follow up with prospects, I need to follow up with leads, and I need to follow up on proposals. When we follow up with prospects, we're either going to follow up with a prospect. I'm going to call him or her on the phone because I've had a conversation with them and I want to personally talk to them. Once again, that's referred to that one-to-one. I want to be able to talk to them about what I've talked to them in the past. Hey, John, I'm following up. The last time we talked, you mentioned this. Where are you at with that? What is the status? Is this a better time for you now? It's very specific. There's also follow-up that needs to be going on. That's one-to-many. Keep in mind, as I'm prospecting every day, not every call, not every email I send is generating a lead. But I am identifying information and qualifying these prospects as I move them through my database. And so now I have this database of hundreds, maybe 1,000 prospects. I have to stay in front of them. I have to continually nurture them. And I need to be broadcast messaging out to them through multi-channels. And that's my Google Ads, my email marketing, my social media. And I got to have CRM in the background that's driving all of that. CRM is at the hub of follow-up. And so when I'm talking about prospects, I got to stay in front of the ones that I physically talked with, that I kind of know their situation. And I got to stay on all the ones that aren't to that level yet in my database. And I'm trying to nurture them to get them to that level. And I need to stay in front of them. And I don't know what channel they're going to respond to. Are they going to respond to a call? Are they responding to an email? Are they responding to a blog? Are they responding to a video, a social post? Are they out on Google searching? Yes, all of those. I got to use a multi-channel approach to be out in front with effective messaging, because messaging is going to be dictated by the channel in which I'm using. So follow up with prospects is critical. Following up on leads. Leads are people that we've talked with. I know all their situation now. They've expressed interest. They're a lead. They're beyond the prospect phase. They've told me, yes, I'm interested. I have to stay in front of them. I still got to keep moving them through. Just because they're a lead doesn't mean they're going to close tomorrow. I got to continue to work them, stay in front of them, and that's all going to be a one-to-one. I got relationships beginning now with them. I need to stay in front of them. I may need to still be coordinating meetings with multiple people within an organization. CRM, once again, is driving much of that. And then lastly is my proposals. It's not uncommon for proposals to stay open for quite a while. In some organizations, they'll have proposals open for months and months and months. And some of that could be valid, and some of it, that proposal should have been closed 6 months ago. But they're not staying on top of it. We want to stay on top of our proposals. I want to know, is that still a valid proposal? If so, when's the probability it will close? What is the probability it will close? Once again, that's a one-to-one relationship. I'm calling them, hey, John, I'm following up on the proposal. Where are you at? Has everyone had a chance to review it? Is there anything else you need from me? What else can I provide you? I have to stay in front of those proposals. CRM is going to help me do that. It's going to remind me when I need to follow up. It's going to remind me when I have an aging pipeline, when proposals are starting to get outdated. So there's 3 main areas that I need to follow up with in this sales structure: prospects, leads, and proposals. And we talked about how CRM is the hub. That's where everything is residing. So we talked about sales definition. We've talked about the 3 key components of an effective sales structure. Let's now talk about considerations and tough decisions. Remember, we're talking about prospecting, the sales demo, and follow-up and we're talking about considerations we as a business owner, we as a VP of sales, we as a sales manager, we're talking about considerations I gotta think of when managing these three areas. One is budget. I need to realign my budget to accommodate what I'm trying to accomplish in each of these areas. I need to determine, do I need to reallocate, realign budget, or am I going to need to invest more? My opinion is most companies do not need to spend more money. Most companies need to take an evaluation and an assessment of every dollar they're spending when it comes to sales and marketing, and then assess, are they getting value on that dollar, and reallocate those dollars into these three areas. I think most companies can reallocate dollars and make their sales structure much more effective without spending any more money. So one of the considerations is, I need to realign my sales dollars. Where am I putting priority? Am I going to put priority on prospecting? Am I putting priority on the sales demo, the follow-up? Where do I want that priority? Is it equal across? Am I going to put more emphasis here? More emphasis here? Where is that? Where's my what are my goals? My goals may dictate where my priority is going to be. What are my objectives? If my objective is to get a lot of new business from new customers, I'm probably going to be putting a priority here on prospecting. I may reallocate more of my budget there. If I feel I have a lot of leads coming in, my prospecting's good, I'm not closing enough, maybe I need to put more emphasis on follow-up. Another major consideration is people. Do I have the right people in the right positions? Do I have the right people, period? Do I need to move people around? Do I need to realign them? Take advantage of their strengths? Get people out of areas that they're just not effective in? Do I need to hire new people? That's a major consideration for companies, and it's one of the more difficult ones. Do I have the right people? Do I need to move people around? Am I strong enough to make that decision? Do I need to hire more? What's the skill set I need? Major decision. People are key. You have the right people in the right position, everything seems to work much better. Another consideration is, do I do this in-house or do I outsource this? Got a whole video out there on the benefits of in-house, the benefits of outsourcing. And it's a major decision for people. And there's a lot of pros and cons for both of those. But once again, it's a consideration. And then lastly is CRM. Is my CRM up to speed? Am I effectively using it? Do I have user adoption? Is it set up to track the things I need to track? Do I have the reporting? Do I have the dashboarding? Is it accommodating the things I need it to be? Is it making my sales force more efficient? If you do not have CRM up and running at the level you need, that's where you need to start, is with CRM. So those are some considerations. Some of the tough decisions, first and foremost, is people. Are you willing to make some of those tough decisions? If I have a wrong person, am I willing to make that decision? If I have a person who's not performing, am I willing to make that decision? Well, you better be, because sales is the heartbeat of your organization. Everything in your organization centers around sales. People are tough decisions. Managers struggle when it comes to people. Lastly is, are you committed? Are you committed to each of these three areas? And I'm not talking committed just financially. This takes work. It takes time. It takes effort. And it's not a turn on and let it go. Plug it in and it works. No, it's turn on, measure, assess, try this, try that, try all four of these things. Let's see which one works. Let's gauge it. Let's measure it. Let's watch trends. Let's put time and energy to the areas that are working. Are you committed to do that? Those are some of the tough decisions. You are the owner. You are the VP of sales. Are you committed to this level of activity? Lastly, we're going to talk about common mistakes. We defined the sales definition. We went through the three components. We talked about considerations and tough decisions. Now we're going to talk about common mistakes. There's a lot of mistakes that people make, and I know firsthand because I've made all of these. I've made all of these in my career. That's how I've learned. And so that's how I know these are very real. They're valid. And one of the first mistakes is people don't do anything because they think it'll just fix itself. Oh, it'll turn around. It's just a little slow. It'll come around. It'll turn around. It'll take care of itself. They don't do anything. Another one is they have no structure. There is no process. So when you wonder why sales aren't at the level that you want them to be, well, maybe it's because you don't have any structure. You don't have any process. Why would you expect it to turn around? Why would you expect it to work when you don't have any structure or process? You don't have a disciplined organization going on. Another one is you wait too long. You wait too long and you get so far behind the eight ball, then you can't move fast enough. And then you're causing a lot of issues internally with people because you're asking them to just move so fast. You don't set up dedicated functions. You try to combine all of these into one person. You have 5 sales reps, but they all do every one of these things. I think we have to accept the fact it's hard to find one person who can do all of these. And if you do, they will migrate to the ones they like to do most. And I can assure you, prospecting is probably not one of them. This is a different breed of person. This is a different skill set. You got to find that person that wants to do that. And so if you don't have these in dedicated roles, dedicated functions, and I'm talking not just in people, but in automation and technology, probably you're going to have a hard time succeeding. You don't have CRM. How can you track any of this? How do you know what's working for you? How do you know where to spend your money? How are you tracking ROI? What is your number one lead source? You got to have CRM that's tracking all of this for you, that's setting up the KPI. You got to set up the KPIs, monitor those metrics, watch the trends. You need automation in the background as we're doing that one-to-many, that multi-channel marketing. That needs to be handled by CRM. You can't have a person that's sending one-off emails all day long. They just can't cover enough ground. You'll get eaten up by the competition. You're not leveraging marketing automation or multi-channel marketing. You're just not covering enough ground. You're dependent on one or a few customers so you don't feel the need. That's a slippery slope. Let's face it, we all have those top customers. But to sit back and rely on them very slippery slope. You can get a call any day that they're leaving. You need to have prospecting going on. You need to be finding that next group of 2 or 3 customers. Who's your new next big customer next year? It takes time to find them. It takes time to build them. We got to constantly be working to find that next group of big customers. You're reactive instead of proactive. We're just constantly responding to the market. We're constantly responding to the people issues in our organization. We're constantly responding to the highs and lows of sales instead of being proactive where we're trying to make sales more this way, that I can forecast, that I can gauge, that I can guesstimate what is going to be coming in. You have wrong people in wrong positions. We just got done talking about that. That's a big one. You can't expect to have performance if I don't have a performer. Everybody has certain skill set. Your job as a manager, your job as an owner is to put that person in the right position. You blame lack of sales on the market. You don't take responsibility yourself. Hey, the market's tough. Well, the sales reps are always going to tell you, hey, geez, the market's tough. Well, the market's always tough. That's sales. Sales is getting out in the market to find those accounts that are doing something. And regardless of the market, there are always accounts out there doing something. That's why we got to be prospecting every day. That's why I got to be hitting the market every day from multiple angles. I got to find them. Another one, and maybe you're just not effective. You're just not doing a lot of these things. You're just not effective. Maybe you're not an effective manager. Maybe you don't have the interest. Maybe you're not committed to doing it. It sounds funny to say that. This is a tough job to do these types of things. I like to be very direct when I talk about sales because it's the heartbeat. It's the heartbeat of our organization. To sugarcoat things brings no value to anyone. Hitting things head on is the best thing we can do when it comes to sales. And one of the last common mistakes is we rely on repeat business and referrals. So business is good. Once again, we can't rely on that. We don't know if we're going to get a referral tomorrow. I don't know if customer A is going to renew their contract. Just because it's working this way now, that doesn't mean 6 months from now. And all of a sudden, 6 months from now, 9 months from now, a year from now, if it isn't working that way, I don't have any pipeline. I have nothing coming in behind it. So there's many reasons why people fail in setting up a sales structure. And keep in mind, we're only talking about 3 components. There's a lot of components in a sales structure. We're just focusing on 3 for this video. But there's lots of reasons why it may not be working. Well, we've talked about the sales definition. We've talked about 3 components of an effective sales structure. We've talked about considerations, tough decisions, and we've talked about common mistakes. I hope you got something out of this video today. If you're struggling in any of these areas, give us a call. This is what we do. I've been in sales all my life. We help companies set up effective sales structures, effective sales processes. We help companies with CRM problems. Give us a call. We'd love to hear from you. www.danharsh.com. Thanks for tuning in. See you on the next video.